"Go find another woman, you're a millionaire." But to everyone's shock, he chose only her. Before we explore all the details of this incredible story, tell us where you're following us from and the time. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a thing, and let's embark on this journey together. She knew she shouldn't have said it the moment the words left her lips. Maya Thompson stood in the center of the grand ballroom, her burgundy silk dress catching the light from the crystal chandeliers above. The annual Tech Vision Gala buzzed around her. Investors in tailored suits, executives clinking champagne glasses, the soft murmur of 100 conversations about market projections and quarterly reports. But all of that faded into background noise as she stared across the room at James Walker. He was leaning against the marble bar, his tall frame impeccable in a charcoal suit that emphasized his broad shoulders. His dark hair was perfectly styled, and those piercing blue eyes that had intimidated countless boardrooms were fixed directly on her. Even from 30 feet away, she could feel the intensity of his gaze. Maya's fingers tightened around her wine glass. At 29, she had built her reputation as Tech Vision's Director of Operations through sheer determination and brilliance. She'd earned every promotion, every recognition, every moment of respect in an industry that didn't always welcome women who looked like her. Her rich brown skin glowed under the ballroom lights, and her natural hair was styled in an elegant updo that showcased the graceful curve of her neck. She was stunning, and she knew it, but more importantly, she was formidable. "Maya, darling, you look absolutely radiant tonight." She turned to find Catherine Mills, one of the board members, approaching with her usual saccharine smile. Catherine was the type of woman who made every conversation feel like a carefully orchestrated performance. "Thank you, Catherine." Maya's voice was warm but measured, the way she'd learned to speak in these corporate settings. "I was just telling Harold over there," Catherine gestured toward a portly man near the dessert table, "about how impressive your Q3 numbers were. Truly exceptional work." "I appreciate that." Maya took a small sip of her wine, already sensing where this conversation was headed. Catherine leaned closer, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "You know, I've been watching our CEO tonight. James seems distracted. Keep glancing in your direction." She paused, her eyes gleaming with gossip. "There are rumors, you know." Maya's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Rumors? Oh, nothing malicious, dear. Just whispers about his personal life. Some of the ladies have been wondering if he's finally ready to settle down. A man like that, successful, gorgeous, wealthy beyond measure, he could have absolutely anyone he wanted." The words hit Maya like a physical blow, even though she'd heard variations of this conversation before. People loved to speculate about James Walker's love life, loved to discuss him like he was some prize to be won, rather than a human being with actual feelings. But what bothered her more was the implication that she might be just another woman hoping to catch his attention, another name on a list of possibilities. "Excuse me," Maya said, her voice steady despite the anger building in her chest. She walked away from Catherine, her heels clicking decisively against the marble floor. She needed air, needed space, needed to remind herself why she was here. This gala was about celebrating Tech Vision's achievements, her achievements. She hadn't spent the last 5 years climbing the corporate ladder just to be reduced to gossip about her boss's dating life. As she neared the bar, she could hear more conversations swirling around her. Fragments of speculation, whispered comments about James's wealth, about which woman might finally land him. The words made her stomach turn. That's when James appeared beside her. "Maya." His voice was low, intimate despite the crowd around them. "You look beautiful tonight." She turned to face him, and for a moment she was struck by how different he looked up close. The intimidating CEO facade was softer somehow, his blue eyes holding something she couldn't quite identify. At 36, James Walker commanded every room he entered, but right now he seemed almost uncertain. "James," she acknowledged with a professional nod. "I've been hoping to talk to you all evening." He moved closer, and she caught the subtle scent of his cologne, something expensive and understated. "About the Morrison project. Is that what this is about?" The question came out sharper than she'd intended. James frowned, genuine confusion crossing his features. "What do you mean?" Maya glanced around the room, acutely aware of the eyes watching them, the conversations that had probably shifted to speculation about this very interaction. The weight of Catherine's words, of all the whispered assumptions pressed down on her. "I mean," she said, her voice growing stronger with each word, "that you're a millionaire, James. You could have any woman in this room, in this city, so whatever game this is—" "Maya, that's not—" Go find another woman. The words erupted from her before she could stop them, loud enough that the conversations around them began to quiet. You're a millionaire. The silence that followed was deafening. Every head in their vicinity turned. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Even the string quartet seemed to pause. Maya felt her cheeks burn, but she held her ground, her chin lifted with the same pride that had carried her through every challenge in her career. James stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then slowly his lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. It was softer than that, more real. I already chose, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the sudden quiet. And it's you, only you. And in that moment, Maya realized she had just unleashed something that would change everything between them. Maya's coffee had gone cold 20 minutes ago, but she couldn't bring herself to take another sip. She sat in her corner office on the 42nd floor of the Tech Vision building, watching the morning sun paint Manhattan in shades of gold and amber. Her reflection stared back at her from the floor-to-ceiling windows. Professional blazer perfectly pressed, her hair pulled back in a sleek low bun, every inch the composed executive she'd trained herself to be, except for her hands. They trembled slightly as she gripped her mug. I already chose. And it's you. Only you. James's words from the night before echoed in her mind for the 100th time since she'd woken up at 5:30, unable to sleep. She'd replayed the moment over and over, the way his blue eyes had held hers, unwavering despite the shocked faces surrounding them, the way her heart had hammered against her ribs when he'd spoken with such quiet certainty. A soft knock interrupted her spiraling thoughts. "Come in," she called, straightening in her chair. Nora Sinclair, her assistant, peeked her head through the door. The young woman's usual bright smile was replaced with barely contained curiosity. "Your 9 o'clock is here. The Clearwater Industries presentation?" Maya nodded, grateful for the distraction. "Send them in." But as Nora turned to leave, she paused. "Maya, are you okay? You seem a bit—" "I'm fine." The words came out more sharply than intended. Maya softened her tone. "Just a long night. Thank you, Nora." The meeting with Clearwater should have been straightforward, a routine quarterly review that Maya could navigate in her sleep. Instead, she found herself losing focus, her mind drifting to the memory of James standing in that ballroom, every eye in the room fixed on them both. When her phone buzzed halfway through the presentation, she glanced down to see a message from an unknown number. "Your usual coffee order is waiting at Grind and Grain, Oskai." Her breath caught. Grind and Grain was the small coffee shop 2 blocks from the office, the place she ducked into every Tuesday morning before work, because they made the best lavender oat milk latte in the city. How did he know that? "Ms. Thompson?" Maya looked up to find 3 pairs of eyes staring at her expectantly. Heat crept up her neck. "I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?" After the Clearwater team left, Maya found herself standing in front of the elevator, pressing the button for the ground floor before she could think better of it. The morning air was crisp against her cheeks as she walked the familiar route to Grind and Grain, her heels clicking rhythmically against the sidewalk. The coffee shop was busy with the usual morning rush, lawyers grabbing espresso shots, tech workers buried in laptops, the comfortable chaos of a Manhattan morning. Maya approached the counter, where Kai, the barista with intricate tattoos covering his arms, greeted her with his usual grin. "Maya, your mysterious benefactor already took care of you today." He gestured toward the pickup counter. "Large lavender oat milk latte, extra hot, light foam. Plus he added one of those almond croissants you always eye but never order." Maya felt her cheeks warm. Did he say anything else?" "Just that he hoped you'd have a good day." Kai's expression grew curious. "Must be some guy. Paid in cash, left a generous tip, and knew your order better than some people know their own names." Maya picked up the coffee cup, noting the careful penmanship on the side. "For Maya, because you deserve more than cold office coffee. James." She found herself smiling despite everything. The walk back to the office felt different somehow, lighter. The latte was perfect, exactly the right temperature, the lavender subtle but present, the foam creating delicate patterns on the surface, and the croissant was buttery and warm, clearly fresh from the oven. Back in her office, Maya settled behind her desk with her unexpected breakfast, feeling something shift in her chest. It wasn't the grand gesture she might have expected from a millionaire CEO, no expensive flowers or jewelry, no dramatic displays. Just coffee, her coffee, and the quiet thoughtfulness of someone who had been paying attention to the small details of her routine. Her computer chimed with an email notification. Maya opened it to find a message from James, sent from his personal account rather than the corporate system. Maya, I hope the coffee meets your standards. I know last night was, unexpected. I'd like to explain if you're willing to listen. Would you have dinner with me tonight, somewhere quiet, where we can talk without an audience? If you're not ready, I understand. But please know that what I said last night wasn't impulse or performance. It was simply the truth. Maya stared at the screen for a long moment, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. Part of her wanted to delete the message, to pretend last night had never happened, to go back to the safe professional distance they'd maintained for the past 2 years. But another part of her, a part she'd been trying to ignore, remembered the way he'd looked at her, not like she was a conquest or a prize to be won, but like she was someone precious, someone chosen. Before she could second-guess herself, she began typing. James, the coffee was perfect. Thank you. 7 o'clock. But I choose the place, Maya. She hit send before she could change her mind, then leaned back in her chair, her heart racing. Outside her office window, the city hummed with its usual energy, millions of people going about their daily lives, unaware that Maya Thompson had just agreed to something that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. And somewhere 40 floors above her, she wondered if James Walker was staring out his own window, feeling the same mix of anticipation and uncertainty that was currently making it impossible for her to concentrate on anything but the evening ahead. Maya changed her outfit 3 times before settling on a simple black dress that hugged her curves without being too formal. She stood in her apartment bedroom, smoothing the fabric over her hips as she examined her reflection. The space around her was a study in organized elegance, books stacked neatly on floating shelves, plants thriving in ceramic pots by the windows, artwork from local black artists adorning the walls. Everything had its place, just like she preferred her life to be. Controlled, predictable, safe. Tonight felt like stepping off the edge of that safety. Her phone buzzed. I'm outside whenever you're ready. No rush. Jay. Maya grabbed her purse and jacket, taking one last look in the hallway mirror. Her reflection showed a confident woman with glowing skin and intelligent dark eyes, but she could see the uncertainty lurking beneath the surface. The elevator ride down felt endless. James was leaning against a sleek black car, but it wasn't the ostentatious luxury vehicle she might have expected. Instead, it was understated, expensive but not flashy. He straightened when he saw her emerge from the building, and the smile that spread across his face was worth every minute she'd spent second-guessing herself. Maya. He opened the passenger door for her, his fingers briefly brushing hers as she accepted his hand. You look incredible. Thank you. She settled into the leather seat, noting how he'd adjusted the temperature to exactly what she preferred in the office. Another small detail he'd somehow noticed. As James walked around to the driver's side, Maya realized she was nervous. Not the professional anxiety she felt before big presentations, but something deeper, more personal. So, James said as he started the engine, where are we going? You said you wanted to choose. Maya had spent the afternoon researching, wanting somewhere that felt like neutral territory, not too romantic, not too casual. Somewhere she could maintain some semblance of control over this situation that felt increasingly beyond her grasp. Harvest Moon, she said. It's a small place in the village, farm to table, quiet, but not pretentious. James nodded approvingly. I've never been, but I trust your judgment completely. The drive through Manhattan's evening traffic should have been awkward, their first time alone together outside of work settings. Instead, James surprised her by asking about her neighborhood, about the bookstore she'd mentioned loving in a casual conversation months ago, about whether she'd had time to visit the new exhibit at the Met. He remembered things, small things she hadn't even realized she'd shared. Harvest Moon lived up to her research. The restaurant was intimate without being overwhelming, with exposed brick walls, warm lighting from Edison bulbs, and tables spaced far enough apart for private conversation. The hostess, a woman named Delphine with silver hair and kind eyes, seated them at a corner table by the window. This is perfect, James said, settling into his chair across from her. How did you find this place? I like to research things thoroughly before making decisions. Maya accepted the menu from their server, a young man with an easy smile who introduced himself as Camden. It's a habit, a good habit, especially in business. Is that what this is? The question slipped out before she could stop it. Business? James set down his menu, his blue eyes meeting hers directly. Maya, nothing about this is business. Nothing about how I feel is business. Her breath caught at the quiet intensity in his voice, but before she could respond, Camden returned to take their drink orders. Maya ordered a glass of the house red wine, something to steady her nerves. James asked for the same. When they were alone again, James leaned forward slightly. "I owe you an explanation about last night." "You don't owe me anything," Maya said, though she found herself leaning in too, drawn by his proximity. "I do. What I said, declaring my feelings in front of half of New York's business community, that wasn't fair to you. You had no warning, no choice in how that moment unfolded." Maya studied his face, looking for signs of the polished CEO charm she'd witnessed in countless meetings. Instead, she saw something raw, vulnerable. "Then why did you do it?" she asked softly. James was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing the rim of his water glass. "Because I've been watching you for 2 years, Maya. Watching you command rooms full of men twice your age. Watching you solve problems that stump entire departments. Watching you be kind to interns while negotiating million-dollar deals. And somewhere along the way, watching became admiring. Admiring became what? Became falling in love with you." The words hung between them like a bridge Maya wasn't sure she was ready to cross. Camden chose that moment to return with their wine, giving her a few precious seconds to process what James had just said. "I know it's complicated," James continued after Camden left. "I know there are power dynamics and professional considerations. I know you've worked twice as hard as anyone else to get where you are, and the last thing I want is for people to think your success has anything to do with our relationship." "What relationship?" Maya took a sip of wine, needing the warmth it provided. "James, you're my boss. I'm a man who's been in love with a brilliant, beautiful, extraordinary woman for longer than I care to admit." His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "And I'm tired of pretending otherwise." Maya felt her carefully constructed defenses beginning to crack. "This is crazy. People will talk. They'll say, 'Let them talk.'" James reached across the table, his fingertips barely grazing her hand. "Maya, I've spent my entire adult life building a company, accumulating wealth, achieving everything I thought I wanted. But none of it means anything if I can't share it with the person who matters most. And you think that person is me? I don't think it. I know it." The certainty in his voice sent a shiver down her spine. Maya looked down at their hands, his pale fingers touching her darker skin, the contrast somehow beautiful in the warm light of the restaurant. "James," she began, but he shook his head gently. "You don't have to say anything tonight. I just needed you to know the truth. I needed you to understand that when I said I chose you, I meant it with everything I am." Their conversation was interrupted by Camden returning to take their food orders, but Maya barely registered the exchange. Her mind was spinning with the weight of James's words, with the sincerity she heard in every syllable. As they ate, seared duck breast for him, wild mushroom risotto for her, the conversation shifted to safer topics. But underneath the discussion of books and travel and favorite childhood memories, Maya could feel the current of something powerful running between them. When James laughed at her story about accidentally dyeing her hair green in college, his whole face transformed. The stern CEO disappeared, replaced by someone younger, more relaxed, someone she could imagine herself falling for, someone she was already falling for if she was honest with herself. As Camden cleared their plates and offered dessert menus, Maya realized she didn't want the evening to end. The thought terrified her almost as much as it thrilled her. "There's something I need to tell you," she said, surprising herself with her boldness. James looked up expectantly, and Maya took a deep breath, preparing to share a truth she'd been hiding even from herself. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she set down her wineglass. The words she needed to say caught somewhere between her heart and her throat. James waited, his blue eyes patient but intense, giving her the space to find her voice. The restaurant hummed quietly around them, the soft clink of silverware, muted conversations from other tables, the gentle jazz playing from hidden speakers, but their corner felt like its own private world. "I need to tell you something," Maya began again, her voice steadier this time. "About why I reacted the way I did last night, about why this scares me so much." "I'm listening." She took a breath, gathering courage from the genuine concern in his expression. "I've spent my entire career proving that I belong in those rooms, James. Every meeting, every presentation, every promotion, I've had to work twice as hard to earn half the recognition, and I've been okay with that because I knew that everything I achieved was mine." James nodded, understanding beginning to dawn in his features. "When you said what you said last night, in front of all those people," Maya paused, searching for the right words. I was terrified that everything I've built would suddenly become about us, that people would look at my next promotion and wonder if I earned it or if I just got it, because I'm sleeping with the CEO. Maya, let me finish. Her voice was firm, but not harsh. I've heard the whispers about other women in our industry, how quickly respect turns to speculation, how achievements become diminished when romance enters the picture. I won't let that happen to me. James leaned back in his chair, processing her words. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but resolute. Then we make sure it doesn't. How? By being smarter than everyone else. By being transparent where we need to be, private where we should be. By never letting anyone question your capabilities or your worth. He reached for her hand again, this time more deliberately. Maya, I would rather quit Tech Vision tomorrow than have your reputation suffer because of my feelings. The sincerity in his voice made her chest tighten. You can't mean that. I built that company from nothing. I can build another one, but there's only one you, and I won't be the reason the world treats you as anything less than the brilliant, accomplished woman you are. Maya felt something shift inside her, a wall she'd carefully constructed beginning to crumble. James, there's something I need to tell you too, he said, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her knuckles. About why it took me 2 years to say anything, about why I've been such a coward until now. She waited, surprised by his admission of vulnerability. I've never felt this way about anyone, James continued, his eyes never leaving hers. I've dated, I've had relationships, but nothing that made me want to risk everything I'd built. Nothing that made me lie awake at night thinking about someone else's happiness before my own. And I do. You do. He smiled softly. You have no idea how many board meetings I've sat through, watching you present some brilliant strategy, wondering if I was imagining the way you'd glance at me sometimes, wondering if there was any chance you might feel even a fraction of what I was feeling. Maya's heart raced as she processed his words. All those times she'd caught him looking at her during presentations, all those moments when their conversations had lingered just a beat longer than necessary. It hadn't been her imagination after all. I did, she whispered, the admission surprising them both. What? Feel something? I tried not to, tried to convince myself it was just professional respect, but she took a shaky breath. There were nights I'd go home and replay our conversations, wondering what it would be like if we were just Maya and James, not director and CEO. The smile that spread across James's face was radiant. And what did you think it would be like? Maya felt heat creep up her neck. Dangerous, complicated, probably a terrible idea. And now? She studied his face, the way his eyes crinkled slightly when he smiled, the small scar above his left eyebrow that she'd never noticed in the office lighting, the way he looked at her like she was the most fascinating person in the world. Still dangerous, still complicated. She squeezed his hand. But maybe not such a terrible idea after all. Camden appeared at their table with perfect timing, offering dessert menus and giving them a moment to absorb what had just passed between them. Maya realized that somewhere during their conversation, her defenses had fully crumbled. The careful distance she'd maintained was gone, replaced by something that felt thrilling and terrifying, and absolutely right. Should we share something? James asked, glancing at the dessert menu but keeping his eyes mostly on her. I don't usually, Maya began, then stopped herself. Tonight was about letting go of her usual rules, her careful boundaries. Actually, yes, let's share. They ordered the chocolate lava cake, and when it arrived, warm and decadent with vanilla ice cream slowly melting around the edges, James pushed it to the center of the table with 2 spoons. To new beginnings, he said, raising his wine glass. Maya clinked her glass against his, feeling lighter than she had in months. To taking risks. As they shared the dessert, their conversation flowed more easily than it ever had in the office. James told her about growing up in Boston, about the small tech startup he'd founded in his garage that eventually became Tech Vision. Maya found herself sharing stories she rarely told anyone, about her grandmother who taught her to never apologize for taking up space, about the scholarship that had changed her life, about the dreams she still carried for the future. I have a confession, James said as they finished the last bite of cake. Another one. I've been looking forward to our Tuesday morning meetings for the past 6 months, not because of the quarterly reports, but because you always wear that blue blouse that brings out your eyes, and you always have this little crease between your eyebrows when you're concentrating on the projections. Maya laughed, a genuine sound that surprised her with its joy. That's incredibly unprofessional of you, Mr. Walker. Probably. Are you going to report me to HR? I might have to. I have a reputation to maintain. Her smile softened. though I should probably mention that I've been wearing that blue blouse on purpose for the past 3 months. The admission hung between them, charged with possibility and promise. As James paid the check and helped her with her jacket, Maya realized that everything had changed between them in the space of one evening. The careful professional relationship they'd maintained was gone, replaced by something honest and real, and infinitely more complicated. But as James's hand settled gently on the small of her back as they walked toward the door, Maya found she wasn't afraid anymore. She was ready to find out what came next. Maya woke up smiling, and it took her a moment to remember why. Sunlight streamed through her bedroom curtains, casting golden patterns across her cream-colored walls. She stretched languorously, her body still humming with the memory of last night, not from anything physical, but from the way James had looked at her as he'd walked her to her apartment door, the way he'd hesitated, clearly wanting to kiss her, but instead had simply brushed his thumb across her cheek and whispered, "Sweet dreams, Maya." It had been more intimate than any kiss she'd ever shared. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from James. "Good morning, beautiful. I know it's early, but I couldn't stop thinking about you. Coffee later." Maya glanced at the clock, 6:47 a.m. She was usually awake by now anyway, but the fact that he was thinking of her first thing in the morning sent warmth spreading through her chest. She typed back, "Good morning. Yes to coffee, but I'm buying this time. Meet me at Grind and Grain at 8. His response came immediately, looking forward to it. Maya found herself humming as she showered and got dressed, choosing a soft green sweater that complemented her skin tone and made her feel confident but approachable. As she applied her makeup, she caught herself in the mirror and paused. The woman looking back at her seemed different somehow. Lighter, more open, less guarded. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. The walk to Grind and Grain felt different this morning. Maya noticed things she usually rushed past. The way the morning light hit the brownstone buildings, the elderly man who fed pigeons in the small park, the warm smell of fresh bread from the bakery on the corner. Everything seemed more vivid, more alive. James was already waiting outside the coffee shop when she arrived, leaning against the brick wall in dark jeans and a charcoal sweater that emphasized his broad shoulders. He looked younger without his usual suit, more relaxed. When he saw her approaching, his face lit up with a smile that made her heart skip. "You beat me here," Maya said as she reached him. "I may have been a little eager." He opened the door for her, his hand briefly touching her lower back as she passed. The simple gesture sent electricity through her. Inside Grind and Grain, the morning rush was in full swing. Kai was behind the counter, working alongside 2 other baristas to keep up with the line of caffeine-dependent New Yorkers. When he spotted Maya and James together, his eyebrows shot up with obvious interest. "Well, well," Kai said with a grin as they approached the counter, "the mysterious benefactor reveals himself. I should have known it was you, suit guy." "Suit guy?" Maya looked at James with amusement. James had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "I may have been in here a few times trying to figure out your order." "A few times?" Kai laughed. "Dude, you've been in here every Tuesday for the past month, ordering different combinations until you got it right. I wondered when you were finally going to make your move." Maya felt her cheeks warm, both from embarrassment and from something deeper. The realization that James had been thinking about her, planning small gestures to make her smile, long before last night's dinner. "The usual for both of you?" Kai asked, already reaching for cups. "Actually," Maya said, surprising herself, "I think I'll try something different today. What do you recommend?" James raised an eyebrow. Maya Thompson was not a woman who deviated from routine easily. "Feeling adventurous?" James asked softly, his voice holding layers of meaning. "Something like that." Kai recommended a cinnamon cardamom latte with oat milk, and Maya agreed to try it. James stuck with his black coffee, but added one of the fresh blueberry scones to their order. They found a small table by the window, tucked away from the main flow of morning traffic. Maya wrapped her hands around her warm cup, inhaling the exotic spices. "This is really good," she admitted after her first sip. "I can't believe I've been ordering the same thing for 2 years." "Sometimes the best discoveries come from taking risks," James said, his eyes holding hers meaningfully. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the city wake up around them. Maya found herself studying James's hands as he broke off a piece of scone, strong with long fingers, and a small scar across his knuckles that she'd never noticed in the office. "Can I ask you something?" she said suddenly. "Anything. Last night, when you said you'd rather quit Tech Vision than have my reputation suffer," she paused, searching his face. "Did you mean that?" James set down his coffee cup, his expression growing serious. Maya, I've been successful in business because I never make promises I can't keep. Yes, I meant it, every word. But Tech Vision is your life's work. No, he said quietly. Tech Vision is what I built before I knew what my life's work actually was. Now I think maybe my life's work is loving you the way you deserve to be loved. The simple honesty of his words took her breath away. Maya felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming realization that someone saw her, truly saw her, and chose her anyway. James, she began, but he reached across the table and gently took her hand. I know this is new and scary and complicated. I know we need to figure out how to navigate the professional side of things. But Maya, I want you to know that whatever happens, whatever we decide, I will never do anything that compromises your position or your reputation. That's not negotiable. Maya squeezed his hand, feeling the last of her reservations melting away. What if I don't want to be careful? What if I'm tired of always playing it safe? A slow smile spread across James's face. Then I guess we figure it out together. Together, Maya repeated, testing the word. It felt foreign on her tongue. She'd been independent for so long, making decisions alone, protecting herself alone. But as she looked at James, at the way he was looking at her like she was something precious, the word began to feel less scary and more like a promise. I should probably tell you, Maya said, a smile tugging at her lips. I have a meeting with the board next week about the Morrison expansion project. The project you've been developing for the past 6 months? The one that's going to revolutionize how we approach client integration? That's the one. Maya felt a flutter of pride. I think it's going to change everything for the company. I know it will, because you created it and everything you touch turns extraordinary. Maya felt heat creep up her neck. You can't say things like that. Why not? Because it makes me want to kiss you right here in this coffee shop. James's eyes darkened with something that made Maya's pulse quicken. And what's stopping you? The challenge in his voice sent courage shooting through her veins. Maya glanced around the busy coffee shop, at Kai, who was studiously avoiding looking in their direction, while clearly listening to every word, at the other customers absorbed in their phones and newspapers. Then she leaned across the small table and pressed her lips to James's. It was soft and brief and tasted like cinnamon and cardamom and new beginnings. When she pulled back, James was staring at her with wonder. Now what? Maya asked, her heart racing with the boldness of what she'd just done. Now, James said, his thumb tracing along her jawline, we go to work and pretend we can concentrate on anything other than each other. Maya laughed, feeling giddy and reckless and more alive than she had in years. That's going to be impossible. Completely impossible, James agreed and kissed her once more. Maya had never found it so difficult to concentrate during a board meeting. She sat at the polished conference table on the 51st floor, her presentation materials spread before her, trying to focus on quarterly projections while acutely aware of James sitting 4 seats away. He was the picture of professional composure, navy suit perfectly tailored, attention focused on the financial reports, occasionally asking pointed questions that demonstrated his sharp business acumen. But Maya caught the way his eyes lingered on her when he thought no one was looking, the way his lips curved into the smallest smile when she made a particularly insightful comment, the way his fingers drummed against the table in a rhythm that matched the beat of her own heart. Miss Thompson, board member Harrison Westfield's voice cut through her wandering thoughts. Your analysis of the Morrison project's potential impact? Maya straightened, grateful that her professional instincts kicked in, even when her personal life felt like it was spinning in beautiful chaos. The preliminary data suggests we could see a 37% increase in client retention within the first quarter of implementation. The integration model I've developed addresses the primary pain points our current system creates. She clicked to the next slide in her presentation, her confidence growing as she moved into familiar territory. This was her domain: strategy, innovation, problem-solving. This was where she excelled regardless of whatever was happening between her and James. The key differentiator, Maya continued, is the adaptive response framework. Instead of forcing clients to adjust to our systems, we're creating systems that adjust to them. Around the table, heads nodded approvingly. Even Gerald Hutchins, the most notoriously difficult board member, looked impressed. Maya felt the familiar rush of satisfaction that came from presenting something she'd poured her expertise into. Brilliant work, as always, said Lenora Fitzgerald, the board's only other woman. What's the implementation timeline? 6 months for full rollout with pilot programs beginning next month. Maya glanced briefly at James, who was watching her with undisguised pride. I've already identified 3 clients who've expressed interest in being part of the beta testing. The meeting continued for another hour, covering everything from budget allocations to expansion plans. Maya participated with her usual sharp insight, but she was hyper-aware of every interaction with James. When he asked about resource allocation for her project, his tone was purely professional, but she caught the way his gaze softened when she answered. When she questioned one of his strategic decisions, something she'd done countless times before, she felt heat creep up her neck at the intensity of his attention. As the meeting concluded and board members began filing out, Maya gathered her materials, hoping to make a quick escape before anyone noticed the tension she felt radiating between her and James. Maya, Lenora's voice stopped her at the door. Excellent presentation today. That Morrison project is going to be a game changer. Thank you. I'm excited to see it in action. You should be proud. It's innovative work like this that sets Tech Vision apart from our competitors. Lenora paused, glancing around the now empty conference room except for James, who was still reviewing documents at the head of the table. I hope you know how valuable you are to this company. To all of us. There was something in Lenora's tone that made Maya look at her more carefully. The older woman's expression was knowing, almost maternal. I appreciate that, Maya said carefully. Good, because talent like yours deserves to be recognized and protected, regardless of other developments. Lenora's eyes flicked briefly toward James, then back to Maya. I've been in this business for 30 years, dear. I've seen brilliant women have their achievements overshadowed by speculation about their personal lives. Don't let that happen to you. Maya's stomach dropped. Lenora, I'm not sure what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm simply saying that whatever choices you make in your personal life, make sure they're choices that serve you, as well as they serve others. Lenora squeezed Maya's shoulder gently. You're too talented to be anyone's footnote. With that, Lenora left, leaving Maya standing in the doorway with her heart racing and her mind spinning. Maya, James's voice was concerned. Everything okay? She turned to find him approaching, his brow furrowed with worry. They were alone in the conference room now, the afternoon sun streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows. She knows, Maya said quietly. Who knows what? Lenora. She suspects something's happening between us. Maya set her materials down on the nearest chair, her hands shaking slightly. James, if she can tell, how many other people can tell? How long before everyone in the office is gossiping about us? James closed the distance between them, his hands settling gently on her shoulders. Maya, breathe. One conversation with one person doesn't mean, doesn't it? Maya pulled away from his touch, beginning to pace. She basically warned me not to let my personal life overshadow my professional achievements. She knows, James, and if she knows, others will too. Would that be such a terrible thing? Maya stared at him. Are you serious? Did you not hear what I told you at dinner about how hard I've worked to build my reputation? I heard every word. But Maya, we're both adults. We're both professionals. What we do outside of this office, there is no outside of this office. The words came out sharper than she intended. You're the CEO, James. I'm your director. Everything we do reflects on this company, on my position here. James's expression grew serious. Then what are you saying? Maya's chest tightened. This was exactly what she'd been afraid of, the moment when the beautiful possibility of them collided with the harsh reality of their professional lives. I don't know, she whispered. I don't know what I'm saying. They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of their situation settling between them like a wall. Maya could see the struggle in James's eyes, could feel him trying to find a solution that would protect them both. What if I recused myself from decisions about your department? He offered. What if we made sure there was always another board member involved in any discussions about your projects or promotions? Maya shook her head. That would raise even more questions. People would wonder why you suddenly stepped back from overseeing one of your most successful directors. Then what do you suggest? The question hung in the air between them. Maya looked at James, at this man who'd just declared he'd give up his life's work for her, who'd spent a month learning her coffee order, who'd looked at her presentation today with such pride and admiration. She thought about the way he'd kissed her this morning, gentle and reverent, like she was something precious. I need time, she said finally. I need to think about this, about us, about how to make this work without destroying everything I've built. Disappointment flashed across James's features, but he nodded, How much time? I don't know, a few days, a week. I just need to figure out how to be with you without losing myself in the process. James stepped closer, his hand reaching up to cup her cheek. Maya, you could never lose yourself. You're the strongest person I know. Whatever we figure out, we'll figure it out together, okay? Despite everything, Maya leaned into his touch. What if we can't? What if there's no way to make this work? Then we'll face that when we come to it, but I'm not giving up on us without a fight, are you? Maya closed her eyes, feeling the warmth of his palm against her skin. When she opened them again, she saw nothing but sincerity and love in his expression. No, she whispered. I'm not giving up either. James smiled, leaning down to press a soft kiss to her forehead. Then we'll figure it out, whatever it takes. As Maya left the conference room and walked back to her office, she carried that promise with her. But she also carried Lenora's warning and the weight of a decision that could change everything: her career, her reputation, her heart. The question was, which risk was worth taking? Maya had been avoiding James for 3 days, and it was killing her. She'd thrown herself into work with desperate intensity, staying late in the office, scheduling back-to-back meetings, anything to keep her mind from replaying their conversation in the conference room. The Morrison project launch was next week, and she used the preparation as an excuse to maintain professional distance. But every morning, she still found her perfect coffee waiting at Grind and Grain, paid for but never accompanied by a note. James was respecting her need for space while still taking care of her in small ways, and somehow that made everything hurt more. It was Thursday evening, nearly 8 o'clock, and Maya was finally packing up her office when her phone rang. James's name flashed on the screen and her heart lurched. She'd been expecting this call. 3 days of silence was long enough, even for someone who needed time to think. Hello, James. Maya? His voice sounded strained, tired. I know you asked for space, but I need to see you. Something's happened. The urgency in his tone made her stomach drop. What's wrong? Not over the phone. Can you meet me? I'm at the hospital. Hospital? Maya was already grabbing her purse, her professional distance evaporating instantly. James, are you hurt? What happened? I'm fine. It's complicated. Mount Sinai, emergency room. Please, Maya, I need you. The line went dead, leaving Maya staring at her phone with her heart pounding. James needed her. Whatever had happened, whatever was wrong, he'd called her. The taxi ride to Mount Sinai felt endless. Maya's mind raced through possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. An accident, an illness, something with his family. Did he even have family? She realized with a pang how much she still didn't know about his personal life beyond work. The hospital's emergency room was a chaos of fluorescent lights and hurried voices. Maya approached the reception desk, scanning the waiting area for James's familiar figure. Excuse me, I'm looking for James Walker. He called me. Maya. She turned to find James standing behind her, and her breath caught. He looked exhausted, his usually perfect appearance disheveled. His shirt was wrinkled, his tie loosened, and there was something in his eyes she'd never seen before, raw vulnerability mixed with relief at seeing her. James. She closed the distance between them without thinking, her hands reaching for his face, checking for injuries. Are you okay? What happened? I'm fine, he said, catching her hands in his. But Maya, there's something I need to tell you, something I should have told you before. A doctor approached them before Maya could respond, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and tired features. Mr. Walker, your sister is stable now. The surgery went well, and we expect a full recovery. Sister? Maya felt the ground shift beneath her feet. James had a sister, and she'd been in surgery. Can I see her? James asked, his voice rough with emotion. She's in recovery, but yes. Room 314. She's been asking for you. The doctor's eyes moved to Maya. And you must be Maya. She's been asking about you too. Maya's confusion must have shown on her face, because James turned to her with an expression of such profound gratitude and pain that it took her breath away. Maya, I'd like you to meet my sister, if you're willing. They rode the elevator to the 3rd floor in silence, James's hand clasped tightly around hers. Maya's mind was spinning with questions, but she could see the strain in his features, and knew now wasn't the time for explanations. Room 314 was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitors. In the hospital bed lay a young woman who couldn't have been more than 22, with James's blue eyes and delicate features. She was pale but awake, and when she saw James, her face lit up with a smile that transformed her completely. Jamie, she said, her voice weak but warm. You came. Of course I came, Lily. James moved to her bedside, his usual composed demeanor cracking as he leaned down to kiss her forehead. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck," which, according to the doctors, isn't far from the truth. Lily's eyes moved to Maya, who was standing uncertainly in the doorway. "You must be Maya. Jamie's told me so much about you." Maya felt her throat close up. He has. "Oh yes. Maya this, Maya that. She's brilliant, Lily. She's beautiful, Lily. She makes me want to be a better person, Lily." Despite her obvious pain, Lily's smile was mischievous. "I was beginning to think you were imaginary." James's cheeks flushed. "Lily, what?" "It's true. You've been talking about her for months." Lily looked back at Maya. "Please, come sit. I've been dying to meet the woman who finally made my brother fall in love." Maya moved closer to the bed, her emotions swirling. "What happened? Are you okay?" "Car accident. Some idiot ran a red light and T-boned my car." Lily tried to shift in the bed and winced. "Couple of broken ribs, concussion, and they had to remove my spleen, but I'm tough. Walker genes, you know." "She called me from the ambulance," James said quietly, his hand still holding his sister's. "Said she needed to make sure someone knew to call you if something happened to her." "James," Maya whispered, understanding beginning to dawn. "She's all I have," James continued, his voice barely audible. "Our parents died when she was 15. I've been taking care of her ever since. She's been living in Boston, finishing college, but she drove down to surprise me for my birthday next week." Maya felt tears pricking her eyes. All this time, James had been carrying the responsibility of caring for his younger sister, and she'd never known. No wonder he understood her drive, her fierce independence. No wonder he'd looked at her with such respect. He'd been watching someone he loved fight for her place in the world, too. "I didn't tell you about Lily because—" James paused, struggling with the words. "Because she's the most important person in my life, and I was terrified that if you knew how much she meant to me, you'd realize you had that kind of power over me too." "James," Lily said softly, "you're an idiot." Despite everything, Maya laughed through her tears. "I like her already." "Good," Lily said, "because I like you too." Anyone who can make Jamie pace around his apartment at 2 in the morning, muttering about quarterly reports and beautiful smiles, is okay by me. "You pace?" Maya looked at James with wonder. "Every night since our dinner," he admitted. "Maya, when I got that call about Lily's accident, the first person I wanted to call was you. Not my assistant, not my lawyer, not anyone else. You. Because somewhere along the way, you became the person I turn to when my world falls apart." Maya felt something break open in her chest. All her careful walls, all her professional concerns, all her fears about reputation and career, none of it mattered when she looked at James holding his sister's hand, when she saw the raw love and terror in his eyes. "I'm sorry I made you wait 3 days for that call," she whispered. "You're here now. That's all that matters." Lily cleared her throat weakly. "Not to interrupt this touching moment, but could someone please explain to me why Jamie looks like he hasn't slept in a week and you look like you've been crying? Because from where I'm lying, you two are perfect for each other." Maya looked at James, seeing him clearly for the first time, not as her powerful CEO, not as a complication to her career, but as a man who'd built an empire while raising his teenage sister, who'd fallen in love with her months ago, but had been too afraid of his own feelings to act on them, until a public moment forced his hand. "We've been figuring some things out," Maya said softly. "Well, figure faster," Lily said with a weak smile. "Life's too short for overthinking, and trust me, I should know." James squeezed his sister's hand, then looked at Maya with an expression that held everything: hope, love, fear, and desperate honesty. "She's right," he said quietly. "Life's too short. And Maya, I don't want to spend another day pretending that you're not the most important thing in my world." Maya felt her last defense crumble completely, and for the first time in 3 days, she knew exactly what she wanted to say. Maya stayed at the hospital until 3 in the morning. She sat in the uncomfortable plastic chair beside Lily's bed, watching James's sister sleep peacefully after the pain medication had finally kicked in. James had dozed off in the chair across from her, his head tilted back against the wall, one hand still loosely holding his sister's fingers. In the quiet of the hospital room, with only the soft beeping of monitors and the distant sounds of the night shift, Maya had time to think, really think. For 3 days she'd agonized over the professional implications of being with James. She'd worried about whispers and speculation, about whether people would question her achievements, about maintaining the reputation she'd worked so hard to build. But sitting here, watching James sleep with his face relaxed and vulnerable, seeing the way he'd held his sister's hand like she was his entire world. Maya realized she'd been asking herself the wrong questions. The question wasn't whether she could afford to love James Walker. The question was whether she could afford not to. "You're thinking very loudly." Lily's voice was barely a whisper in the darkness. Maya looked over to find the younger woman awake, her blue eyes alert despite the pain medication. "I'm sorry. Did I wake you?" "No, the IV keeps making this weird clicking sound." Lily shifted slightly, wincing. "But you've been sitting there for an hour with the most intense expression on your face. Want to talk about it?" Maya glanced at James, who was still sleeping soundly. "I don't want to disturb him. He's exhausted." "He's been exhausted for months," Lily said softly. "Ever since he met you, actually. Happy exhausted, but exhausted nonetheless. Do you know he called me the day after your company's gala? Said he'd done something either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. What did you tell him? That with you they were probably the same thing." Lily's smile was knowing. "Maya, can I tell you something about my brother?" Maya nodded. "James has spent the last 11 years of his life taking care of me. He was 25 when our parents died, just starting Tech Vision, and suddenly he had a grieving, angry 15-year-old to raise. He could have sent me to live with our aunt in California, could have focused on building his company without the complication of a teenager. But he didn't. No, he didn't. He moved me to New York, found me the best schools, came to every parent-teacher conference, every school play, every college visit. He built Tech Vision into what it is today, while making sure I never felt like I was a burden or an obligation." Maya felt her throat tighten with emotion. "The thing is," Lily continued, "he's never once complained about it, never once acted like taking care of me held him back, but he also never let anyone get close enough to matter. Until you. Lily, when he talks about you, his whole face changes. He lights up in a way I haven't seen since before our parents died. You make him remember what it feels like to want something for himself, not just for someone else." Maya looked at James, still sleeping peacefully, and felt her heart constrict with love and terror in equal measure. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Of what?" "Of losing myself, of becoming James Walker's girlfriend, instead of Maya Thompson, director of operations, of having people question whether I earned my success or just slept my way into it." Lily was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was gentle but firm. "Maya, can I ask you something? Who decided that you can't be both brilliant and in love? Who made the rule that successful women have to choose between professional respect and personal happiness?" The question hit Maya like a physical blow. "I don't know," she admitted. "Society, I guess. The business world. Other people who've made me feel like I have to prove I belong every single day. And are you going to let other people's limited imaginations dictate how you live your life?" Maya stared at Lily, this young woman who'd just survived a serious accident and was somehow dispensing wisdom like she'd lived 100 lifetimes. "Your brother is lucky to have you," Maya said softly. "We're lucky to have each other. And Maya, he'd be lucky to have you too, but only if you're brave enough to let him." James stirred in his chair, his eyes opening slowly. When he saw Maya watching him, he smiled with such warmth that she felt her remaining defenses crumble completely. "Hey," he said, his voice rough with sleep. "What time is it?" "Almost 3:30. You should go home, get some real sleep." "I'm not leaving." James sat up straighter, rolling his shoulders to work out the kinks. "Not until I know she's really okay." "I'm fine, Jamie," Lily said with fond exasperation. "And you're not doing me any good by giving yourself a permanent crick in your neck. Take Maya home. Come back in the morning with decent coffee and those chocolate croissants I like." "Lily, that's an order from your injured little sister. Go." James looked like he was going to argue, but Maya stood up, making the decision for both of them. "She's right. You need real rest, and I need to talk to you. Somewhere that isn't a hospital room." Something in her tone made James look at her more carefully. "Maya, please, trust me." The drive to Maya's apartment was quiet, both of them lost in their own thoughts. James kept glancing at her, clearly sensing that something had shifted, but he didn't push. He simply drove through the empty streets of Manhattan, his presence steady and reassuring beside her. When they reached her building, Maya turned to him. "Come up with me." James nodded without hesitation. Maya's apartment felt different with James in it, smaller somehow but also warmer. She watched him take in the details of her personal space, the photographs of her family on the mantel, the books stacked on every available surface, the plant she'd somehow managed to keep alive for 3 years. "Would you like some tea?" she asked, suddenly nervous. Maya. James turned to face her, his expression serious. Whatever you need to say, just say it. I can handle it. She looked at him. This man who'd built an empire while raising his sister, who'd fallen in love with her and told the world without caring about the consequences, who'd called her when his family was in crisis because she'd become the person he turned to when everything fell apart. I've been an idiot, she said quietly. James blinked. What? For 3 days, I've been sitting in my office, weighing pros and cons, making lists of reasons why we shouldn't be together. Professional implications, power dynamics, what people might say. Maya moved closer to him, her heart pounding. But tonight, watching you with Lily, seeing how much you love her, how you've sacrificed for her without ever making her feel like a burden, I realized something. What did you realize? I realized that I've been so focused on protecting my reputation that I forgot to protect my heart. And James, my heart wants you, all of you. The CEO, the protective brother, the man who learns my coffee order and looks at me like I'm the most fascinating person in the world. James's eyes widened, hope beginning to flicker across his features. I don't want to spend another day pretending that you don't matter to me, Maya continued, her voice growing stronger. I don't want to waste time worrying about what other people think when I could be loving you instead. Because that's what this is, James. I love you. I love your dedication to your family. I love your brilliant mind. I love the way you make me want to take risks I never thought I was brave enough to take. The smile that spread across James's face was radiant. Maya, I'm not finished. She reached for his hands, intertwining their fingers. I love you, and I'm done being afraid of that. Whatever challenges we face professionally, we'll face them together. Whatever gossip or speculation comes our way, we'll handle it. Because what we have is worth fighting for. James pulled her closer, his forehead resting against hers. Are you sure? Because once I kiss you right now, I'm never letting you go. Maya smiled, feeling lighter than she had in days. I'm counting on it. When James kissed her, it was with the passion and tenderness of a man who'd been waiting his entire life for this moment. And as Maya melted into his embrace, she knew with absolute certainty that she'd made the right choice. Love was always a risk, but some risks were worth taking. Maya woke up to the smell of coffee and the sound of James humming softly in her kitchen. For a moment, she lay still in her bed, letting the reality of the night before wash over her. She'd told James she loved him. He'd stayed the night, sleeping on her couch at her insistence, though they'd fallen asleep together on the sofa watching old movies until nearly dawn. Everything had changed, and yet everything felt exactly as it should be. She found him standing at her kitchen counter, still wearing yesterday's wrinkled dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up, looking completely at home in her space. He'd somehow managed to make breakfast, scrambled eggs, toast, and perfectly brewed coffee that smelled like heaven. Good morning, she said, padding into the kitchen in her pajamas and robe. James turned with a smile that made her heart skip. Good morning, beautiful. I hope you don't mind that I raided your kitchen. I thought you might be hungry. I'm starving, actually. Maya accepted the mug of coffee he offered, inhaling the rich aroma. How did you sleep? That couch can't have been comfortable. Best night's sleep I've had in months, James said, and the sincerity in his voice made her cheeks warm. Maya, about last night. No regrets, she interrupted, moving closer to him. Not a single one. James set down his coffee and cupped her face in his hands, studying her expression as if memorizing every detail. I love you, he said softly. I know I told you that before, but now that you've said it back, I want to say it every morning for the rest of our lives. I love you too. The words felt natural now, no longer terrifying, but simply true. What time do you need to get to the hospital? Visiting hours start at 9. I called the night nurse an hour ago. Lily had a good night, no complications. James's expression grew serious. Maya, I know we decided to face this together, but I want to make sure you're really ready for what that means. Once we walk into Tech Vision together, once people see us as a couple, there's no going back. Maya considered this, sipping her coffee, as she watched the morning sun stream through her kitchen windows. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we be smart about this. We don't hide, but we also don't make unnecessary announcements. We let people draw their own conclusions naturally, and we focus on maintaining the professionalism we've always had. And when the board meeting comes up next month, when they discuss my promotion to Vice President of Operations, James raised an eyebrow. Who told you about that? Maya smiled. Lenora mentioned it might be on the table. She also warned me about mixing business with pleasure, remember? Ah, James leaned against the counter, his expression thoughtful. Well, for what it's worth, that promotion was already in the works long before our dinner. Your Morrison project launch next week is going to seal the deal. You really think so, Maya? You're the most talented operations director TechVision has ever had. You've increased efficiency by 40%, client satisfaction by 35%, and you've saved us millions in operational costs. That promotion isn't about our relationship. It's about you being exceptional at your job. The confidence in his voice bolstered her own, reminding her why she'd fallen for him in the first place. James had never once diminished her abilities or made her feel like her success was dependent on anyone but herself. Okay, she said decisively. Let's do this, but I have conditions. Name them. At work, you're still Mr. Walker, and I'm still Ms. Thompson. No special treatment, no favoritism, no coupley behavior in the office. Agreed. I handle my own career advancement. If opportunities come my way, I want to earn them on merit, not because I'm sleeping with the CEO. You couldn't be more qualified for that VP position if you tried, and everyone knows it. And if this doesn't work out between us, Maya paused, hating even the thought. We're both adults. We keep it professional. James stepped closer, his hands settling on her waist. Maya, I understand the practical concerns, but I need you to know something. This isn't a trial run for me. This isn't something I'm hoping works out. I'm in this completely, permanently, with no exit strategy. The intensity of his declaration took her breath away. James, I know it's soon, and I know we're still figuring things out, but I need you to understand that you're not just someone I'm dating. You're the woman I want to build a life with. Maya felt tears prick her eyes, overwhelmed by the depth of emotion in his voice. You're making it very hard to maintain professional boundaries when you say things like that. Good, James said, leaning down to kiss her softly. I don't want you to have any doubts about how serious I am about us. 2 hours later, Maya stood in front of her bathroom mirror, applying her makeup with unusual care. She'd chosen her outfit thoughtfully, a burgundy blazer that made her skin glow, paired with a pencil skirt and her favorite heels. Professional, confident, beautiful. She looked like exactly what she was, a successful businesswoman who happened to be in love. James was waiting in her living room, having gone home to shower and change into a fresh suit. When she emerged from her bedroom, the appreciation in his eyes was unmistakable. Ready to face the world? He asked, offering her his arm. So with you, I think I can handle anything. They rode the elevator down to the parking garage in comfortable silence, both lost in their own thoughts. As James opened the car door for her, Maya felt a flutter of nerves. What if everyone's already talking? She asked. What if someone saw us at the hospital or at dinner, or... Then they'll see two people who care about each other, James interrupted gently. Maya, we're not doing anything wrong. We're two consenting adults who happen to work for the same company. It's not unprecedented, and it's not scandalous. The drive to TechVision felt different this morning. Instead of their usual separate arrivals, they were choosing to arrive together, and Maya knew that choice would be noticed. James seemed to sense her nervousness because he reached over and squeezed her hand. Whatever happens, we face it together, he reminded her. And Maya, I'm proud to be seen with you. So I'm proud that people will know you chose me too. As they pulled into the TechVision parking garage, Maya saw Nora getting out of her car 2 spaces away. Her assistant's eyes widened when she saw James and Maya emerging from the same vehicle, but her expression quickly shifted to a knowing smile. Good morning, Maya, Nora said cheerfully as they approached the elevator bank. Mr. Walker, I hope you both had a pleasant evening. We did, thank you, Maya replied, impressed by her assistant's discretion. The elevator ride to their respective floors was surreal. James got off at the executive level with a professional, "Have a good day, Ms. Thompson," but not before his fingers brushed hers as he handed her a file folder. Inside the folder, Maya found a single sticky note. You're amazing. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. J. As Maya settled into her office and began reviewing her schedule for the Morrison project launch, she realized something had fundamentally shifted. The fear that had consumed her for days was gone, replaced by something stronger, certainty. She was Maya Thompson, soon-to-be VP of Operations, brilliant strategist and accomplished professional. She was also a woman in love with an extraordinary man who saw her as his equal in every way. And for the first time in her career, she didn't see those two things as contradictory. Her phone buzzed with a text from James. Morrison launch meeting in 20 minutes. Ready to show them what you're made of? Maya smiled, straightening her blazer and gathering her presentation materials. Always, she typed back. As she walked toward the conference room where her professional future waited, Maya carried herself with the confidence of a woman who had finally learned the most important lesson of all. She didn't have to choose between love and success. She could have both. The Morrison project launch was a resounding success, and Maya had never felt more powerful. Standing at the front of the conference room 3 weeks later, presenting the remarkable results to a room full of executives, board members, and clients, Maya felt every ounce of her professional pride validated. The numbers spoke for themselves. 43% increase in client satisfaction, 38% improvement in system efficiency, and projected revenue increases that exceeded even her most optimistic estimates. In conclusion, Maya said, advancing to her final slide, the Morrison integration model has exceeded all benchmarks and established TechVision as the undisputed leader in adaptive client solutions. The room erupted in applause. Maya caught James's eye across the conference table, and the pride in his expression made her heart soar. But it was Lenora's approving nod and Gerald Hutchins' rare smile that told her everything she needed to know about her professional future. As the meeting concluded and people began filing out, Lenora approached Maya with a manila envelope. "Congratulations on an exceptional presentation," she said warmly, "and on what I suspect will be very good news." She handed Maya the envelope with a knowing smile. "The board met yesterday evening. I think you'll be pleased with our decision." Maya's hands trembled slightly as she accepted the envelope. Inside, she found a formal letter with the TechVision letterhead, and her breath caught as she read the opening lines. "Dear Ms. Thompson, it is with great pleasure that the Board of Directors offers you the position of Vice President of Operations, effective immediately." "Maya?" James's voice was concerned as he approached. "Everything all right?" She looked up at him, tears of joy threatening to spill over. "I got it. The VP position. They're promoting me." The smile that spread across James's face was radiant, but he maintained perfect professional decorum, even as his eyes sparkled with pride. "Congratulations, Ms. Thompson. It's well deserved. Thank you, Mr. Walker." As the conference room emptied, leaving them momentarily alone, James stepped closer. "How does it feel to be TechVision's youngest VP ever?" "It feels..." Maya paused, searching for the right words. "It feels like everything I've worked for is finally coming together." "It is. And Maya, I need you to know that this promotion has absolutely nothing to do with us. The board made this decision based purely on your exceptional performance." "I know," she said softly, and realized she truly did. The fears that had consumed her weeks ago seemed distant now, replaced by the quiet confidence that came from knowing she'd earned every accolade through her own merit. That evening, Maya was packing up her office, preparing to move to the executive floor the following week, when James appeared in her doorway. "Working late, Ms. Vice President?" She laughed, the title still feeling surreal. "Just trying to organize 5 years' worth of files. This promotion means a lot more paperwork. It also means a lot more responsibility and a lot more opportunities to shape the future of this company." Maya looked around her office, at the awards on her walls, the photos of successful projects, the plants that had somehow survived her demanding schedule. This space had been her sanctuary, the place where she'd built her reputation and proven her worth. "I'm going to miss this office," she admitted. "Your new office has a much better view," James said, moving into the room, "and it's only 2 doors down from mine. Is that going to be a problem? Us working so closely together?" James considered this seriously. "I don't think so. We've managed to maintain perfect professionalism for the past 3 weeks, even while navigating our personal relationship. I think we've proven we can handle it." He was right. Since the morning they'd arrived at work together, they'd managed to keep their professional and personal lives beautifully balanced. At work, they were colleagues who respected each other's expertise. After hours, they were a couple building something beautiful together. Maya had spent the past weekend at the hospital with James and Lily, who was recovering remarkably well and had already declared herself Maya's biggest fan. She'd also met James at Grind and Grain every Tuesday morning, their coffee dates becoming a cherished routine that grounded them both. "Maya," James said, his tone growing serious, "there's something I need to tell you. Something I've been waiting for the right moment to say." She looked up from the box she was packing, noting the nervous energy in his posture. "What is it?" "The board meeting yesterday. There was another item on the agenda, something I hadn't told you about." Maya's stomach clenched. "James, what?" "I submitted my resignation." The words hit Maya like a physical blow. "What? Why would you?" "Because I realized that as long as I'm your superior, There will always be questions about the validity of your achievements. There will always be people who wonder if your success is connected to our relationship. James moved closer, his expression earnest. Maya, you're destined for incredible things. You could run this entire company someday, and I won't be the reason anyone doubts that you earned it. Maya stared at him, processing the magnitude of what he was saying. James, you can't resign from Tech Vision. It's your life's work. No, he said softly, reaching for her hands. My life's work is loving you and supporting your dreams. Tech Vision was just what I did before I found my real purpose. The board won't accept your resignation. They'd be crazy to let you go. James smiled. Actually, they didn't accept it. They countered with something better. Maya waited, her heart pounding. They're restructuring the company, creating co-CEO positions. Lenora will be taking over as CEO of operations, overseeing all the technical and logistical aspects of the business. I'll be CEO of strategy and development, focusing on long-term growth and new ventures. That means we'll be equals, true partners both professionally and personally. No power imbalances, no questions about favoritism. Just two people who happen to be exceptional at their jobs and deeply in love with each other. Maya felt tears streaming down her cheeks. You restructured an entire company for me. I restructured a company for us, for the future we're building together. Before Maya could respond, James was moving away from her, and she watched in shock as he dropped to one knee beside her desk, pulling a small velvet box from his jacket pocket. Maya Thompson, he said, his voice thick with emotion. You are the most brilliant, beautiful, inspiring woman I've ever known. You challenge me, you complete me, and you make me want to be worthy of the extraordinary person you are. Maya's hands flew to her mouth, tears flowing freely now. I love your fierce independence, your incredible mind, your generous heart, and the way you make me laugh even on the hardest days. I love that you order the same coffee every Tuesday, but tried something new the morning after you decided to take a chance on us. I love that you're going to be the most successful executive Tech Vision has ever seen, and I love that I get to watch you conquer the world. James opened the box, revealing a stunning solitaire diamond that caught the office lights and threw rainbows across the walls. Maya Thompson, will you marry me? Will you be my partner in business, in life, in everything that matters? Maya slid off her chair and onto her knees in front of him, cupping his face in her hands. Yes, she whispered through her tears. Yes, yes, absolutely yes. The kiss they shared was deep and passionate and full of promises for the future. When they finally broke apart, James slipped the ring onto her finger with shaking hands. Perfect fit, he murmured, and Maya laughed through her tears. Everything about this is perfect, she said, admiring the way the diamond looked on her hand. James, I can't believe you restructured the entire company just so we could be equals. Maya, you were already my equal. I just made sure the rest of the world could see it too. As they stood together in her soon-to-be former office, surrounded by the achievements of her career and the promise of their future together, Maya realized that the scared woman who had told him to find another woman at the gala was gone forever. In her place stood someone stronger, braver, and infinitely happier, a woman who had learned that love and success weren't mutually exclusive, that the right partner would lift her up rather than hold her back, and that sometimes the most professional thing you could do was follow your heart. So, Maya said, leaning into James's embrace, what happens now? Now, James said, kissing the top of her head, we change the world together. And as Maya looked at the ring sparkling on her finger and felt the solid warmth of the man she loved beside her, she knew they absolutely would. 2 years later, Maya Walker stood on the terrace of their Manhattan penthouse, watching the sunrise paint the city in shades of gold and rose. 2 years of marriage had only deepened her appreciation for moments like this. Quiet mornings when the world belonged only to them, before the demands of running one of the most successful tech companies in the country pulled them into their beautifully chaotic days. Good morning, Mrs. Walker. Maya smiled without turning around, feeling James's arms slide around her waist from behind. Even after all this time, the sound of her married name on his lips sent warmth spreading through her chest. Good morning, Mr. Walker. She leaned back against his solid chest, inhaling the familiar scent of his cologne mixed with coffee. You're up early. Board meeting prep. Though I have to admit, I was mostly distracted by my beautiful wife standing here looking like something from a dream. Maya was wearing one of James's button-down shirts over silk pajama shorts, her natural hair loose around her shoulders, catching the morning light. She'd never felt more beautiful than she did in these quiet moments with him. "Flatterer," she murmured, but she was smiling. "Truth-teller," he corrected, pressing a soft kiss to the curve of her neck. "How are you feeling today?" Maya's hand instinctively moved to her still flat stomach, where their first child was growing, a secret they'd been keeping for only a week, too precious and new to share with anyone yet. Even Lily didn't know, though she'd be thrilled when they told her at dinner tonight. Excited, nervous, completely overwhelmed with how perfect everything is. James turned her in his arms, his blue eyes soft with love and wonder. "We're going to be parents." "We are." Maya reached up to cup his face, marveling at how the man who'd once intimidated entire boardrooms looked at her like she'd hung the stars. "Are you ready for that kind of chaos?" "With you, I'm ready for anything." They'd talked about children extensively during their engagement and first year of marriage. James wanted a house full of kids, and Maya found herself dreaming of little voices calling her name, of teaching tiny hands to be strong and kind. They'd agreed to start trying after Maya's first full year as VP, and nature had cooperated beautifully. "Lily's going to spoil this baby rotten," Maya said, thinking of James's sister, who was now 24 and working as a junior developer at TechVision while finishing her computer science degree. "She's already buying stuffed animals, isn't she? 3 so far, and she doesn't even know yet." James laughed, the sound rich and warm in the morning air. "She has intuition like that. Remember how she knew I was going to propose before I even bought the ring?" Maya did remember. Lily had cornered her at their weekly coffee date and asked, with a perfectly straight face, what kind of engagement ring she preferred. When Maya had protested that James hadn't even mentioned marriage, Lily had rolled her eyes and said, "Maya, he's been looking at rings online for 2 months. I saw his browser history." The proposal itself had been perfect, not because it was elaborate or expensive, but because it had happened in the place where Maya had built her career, surrounded by the achievements that had made her who she was. James had understood that her professional success wasn't separate from their love story. It was part of it. "What are you thinking about?" James asked, noting her faraway expression. "Just everything. How different my life is now compared to 2 years ago. Better or worse?" Maya pretended to consider this seriously. "Well, I have to share my coffee now, and someone leaves socks on the bedroom floor, and I can't work late without getting texts asking if I've eaten dinner." "Terrible hardships," James agreed solemnly. "But," Maya continued, her voice growing soft, "I also wake up next to my best friend every morning. I have a partner who celebrates my successes like they're his own. I get to build a company and a family with someone who sees me as an equal in every way that matters. So better then. So much better it sometimes takes my breath away." James kissed her then, slow and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "I have something for you," he said, reaching into his robe pocket. "James, it's not my birthday. It's our 2-year wedding anniversary." Maya blinked in surprise. With the excitement of their pregnancy news and the demands of work, she'd completely forgotten. "Oh my God, how did I—" "Because you've been busy growing our child and revolutionizing how the tech industry approaches client relations. I forgive you." James pulled out a small jewelry box, different from the one that had held her engagement ring. "Besides, I have been planning this for months." Inside the box was a delicate gold necklace with a small pendant, 2 intertwined infinity symbols, one slightly larger than the other. "James," Maya breathed, "it's beautiful. The larger symbol represents us, infinite, endless, forever. The smaller one represents our family, all the children we'll have, all the love we'll share, all the memories we'll make." James lifted the necklace from the box. "Turn around." Maya lifted her hair, shivering as James's fingers brushed the nape of her neck while he fastened the clasp. The pendant settled perfectly at her collarbone, catching the morning light. "Perfect," James murmured, his hands settling on her shoulders. "Just like everything else about our life." "Not perfect," Maya corrected, turning back to face him. "Better than perfect. Real." Their life wasn't a fairy tale. It was something richer and more complex. They disagreed sometimes, usually about business strategy, or whose turn it was to do the dishes. Maya still worked long hours when big projects demanded it, and James still got stressed during quarterly board meetings. They'd had their share of challenges, from media speculation about their relationship to the ordinary struggles of merging 2 strong personalities into one partnership. But through it all, they'd remained teammates. When Forbes had run a profile on Maya titled "The VP Who's Redefining Success," James had framed 3 copies and put them in his office, the hospital waiting room where Lily was having her appendix removed, and their bedroom. When James had been named to the 40 Under 40 list for innovative leadership, Maya had organized a surprise party and given a speech about how proud she was to be married to a man who made everyone around him better. "What time is your first meeting?" Maya asked, noting the way the sun was climbing higher in the sky. "Not for 2 hours. What time is yours?" "Same." Maya smiled, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Whatever shall we do with all that time?" James's answering smile was slow and heated. "I can think of a few things." He swept her up in his arms, making her laugh as he carried her back through the sliding doors into their bedroom. The morning light filtered through sheer curtains, casting everything in a golden glow. Later, as they lay tangled in soft sheets, Maya traced lazy patterns on James's chest while he played with her hair. "Do you think we'll still do this when we're 70? She asked drowsily. "What, make love on Tuesday mornings? Be this happy, be this us?" James was quiet for a moment, his fingers stilling in her curls. "Maya, do you know what I thought the first time I saw you present in a board meeting? That I was brilliant and intimidating. That too. But mostly I thought, there she is, the woman I'm going to love for the rest of my life." Maya lifted her head to look at him. "You did not." "I did. It was the strangest thing. I'd never believed in love at first sight, but there you were demolishing Gerald Hutchins' arguments about operational efficiency, and all I could think was that I wanted to spend every day for the rest of my life watching you be exactly that magnificent. And now I get to. Every day, I get to watch you be brilliant and beautiful and kind and fierce. I get to see you grow our child, build our company, make our family. Maya, when we're 70, I'm going to love you even more than I do right now, which seems impossible, but I know it's true." Maya felt tears prick her eyes, happy tears that seemed to come more easily these days. "I love you so much it scares me sometimes." "Good scary or bad scary?" "Good scary, like standing at the edge of something beautiful and infinite and knowing that the only way forward is to jump." "Then jump," James whispered, pulling her closer. "I'll catch you every time." As Maya settled back into his arms, listening to the steady beat of his heart, she marveled at the journey that had brought them here. 2 years ago, she'd been a woman afraid that loving someone would diminish her own light. Now she understood that the opposite was true. Loving James and being loved by him had made her shine brighter than she'd ever thought possible. Outside their windows, New York City hummed with life and possibility. Somewhere in the city, couples were having first dates and last fights, celebrating promotions and navigating heartbreaks. The world spun on with all its complications and contradictions. But here, in this bed, in this moment, Maya Walker was exactly where she belonged, in the arms of the man who'd taught her that love wasn't about losing yourself, but about finding the best version of who you could be. And as James's breathing deepened into sleep beside her, Maya placed her hand over her heart, feeling the steady rhythm that matched his, and smiled. This was love. This was home. This was everything she'd never dared to dream she could have, and it was only the beginning. The end. Would you have made the same choice Maya did? What did this story teach you about balancing love and ambition? Your participation means a lot to the channel. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment your thoughts. Your participation is very important to us. See you next time.